How do you feel about Germantown closing?
I feel it's crazy because like we as students go through it the most because like we don't know what to do. Like it's just crazy to me because what are we supposed to do if you're doing the wrong thing? Like you're building prisons instead of building some more schools.
Okay. Would the school closing affect you?
It would affect me because of the whole budget. It's like you have more money to build prisons than you have to educate students. That's not adding up to why they're closing the school. That just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, thank you. How do you feel about the school closing?
Um, I feel sad about it closing because I've been here for 4 years and everybody that lives around my community and stuff went here, and it's just sad that it's closing.
Okay. Does the school closing have an effect on you?
Um, Directly it doesn't because I'm a 12th grader and I'll be graduating this year. I'm going off to college, but I guess it does because when I get older and tell my kids that what high school I went to, it's kind of sad knowing that it's not here anymore, and other kids in my community, my little cousins and stuff, probably won't have another school to go to. They have to probably go further to a different school.
Okay.
Okay. Again, my name is Ted Williams. I'm a social studies teacher at Germantown High School Promise Academy.
Hi, and I'm Benita Cotton. I'm a senior at Germantown High School. Okay, Mr. Will, how do you feel about the school closing?
Uh, I've had mixed emotions about it. At first, I was upset. This is the second time this has happened to me in my 3 years of teaching. So obviously it affects me personally because it's my job. But moreover, I'm really upset for the students who are really committed to making this school great, especially the juniors and seniors who I've taught and who have worked so hard just to have that taken away, the opportunity and have recognition taken away from them.
Yeah. Okay, does the school closing affect you?
It does. I mean, it means that I've got to now find another job, whether it's in Philadelphia or elsewhere. And it really kind of fits into my overall life plan because I plan on teaching at least this graduating class, maybe a few more. But now I have to really reevaluate, do I want to stay in Philadelphia or do I want to leave? And if I leave, where will I go and how long will I be there? So really, it's kind of like starting over.
Okay. Well, how do you feel that the school closing will affect this community?
I think it's immediately going to have a very negative impact on the community. There's a lot of people who have invested their time and their efforts into this school, and originally schools served as the community center for meetings, for business, for church, everything. And so when that leaves, it's like closing a church or closing down a community center. It's going to have a drastic impact. But it also will have a big one economically because the students here use the area businesses, Aaron's Donuts, the McDonald's, what used to be the Dunkin' Donuts. And so that money will be leaving the area. I don't know what businesses around the other high schools, but they will benefit from this, whereas the Germantown community will see a loss of business and many businesses will shut down. So this is the beginning of a deterioration or kind of a falling apart of this area.
Okay. Do you think the school closing will benefit the school district financially?
I mean, it will. This building is old and expensive. It costs about $4 million a year to run Germantown High School. And that's true for most of the old buildings that they're closing. University City, Vox, they're just expensive. And with the building not being full, it costs money. And when the city is paid per student in the building, and we could have 3,000, but we only have 700, that's missing, really $3 million that should be in this building to pay for it. So yeah, I mean, it does benefit them financially because there's another building they're not paying for. But they will still have to pay for the taxes on the property. So it's a minor difference, if anything.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Will.
Anytime.
How do you feel about the closing of Germantown?
Well, I feel bad. I really like working here. It's really getting some great artwork from the students, really developing the students' talents and developing relationships with the staff, the community, and of course, most importantly, the students. And now that's kind of ending abruptly, and you know, I really, you know, it's really kind of getting to me. And you know, a similar thing happened when I was at Gratz. They didn't close the school, but they made it a charter school. And you know, there I was able to, you know, transfer to another school. But they're doing the same thing to this, and they do the same thing again next year. I'm gonna run out of schools to transfer to. So you know, the profession that I went to school and to learn was teaching and education, and now that's kind of being taken away from me. So I'm really kind of disturbed by it.
Give to the first question.
Do you think the school closing will help the school district financially?
I don't know. I don't know. I know when I was looking around last year, I noticed that the numbers were kind of low. So I don't know how much it costs to heat the building, for instance, or how much it costs in the other expenses that the school district has to, you know, pay. So I really couldn't speak on that. So it may not, you know.
How do you feel about the school closing?
I feel, I'm looking at the camera. I feel very sad about the school closing. I guess I've seen it coming for a little bit because I was here, and this is my 21st year. I taught Benita when she was a 9th grader. And I've been here when we had over 2,000 students. So having 600, 500, however many students we have here kind of makes it sad. Like, I guess as a person gets older and then, you know, their friends start dying, it's kind of almost what it's like here. So, but still, it's just been here for almost 100 years, and I think it's just such a staple in the community, and it's such a something that's just always been here that it's going to be very strange without it here. So I don't think I've even started to feel the full effects of it yet.
Okay. Well, do you think the school closing will affect the community?
Definitely. One of the things is what happens to the building itself. We take up a whole block, so definitely if it's left alone, that's definitely a bad thing for graffiti and for people hanging out and things like that. And the other thing is that with us being here every day, it makes the neighborhood vibrant. I mean, I guess some people would look at it like maybe it might have theft or something like that, but I don't really think so. I think us being here is a very positive thing for the community. At one point I'd heard rumored that maybe LaSalle was going to take the building, and that would be good for the community too.
Okay. Do you think that the school closing will help the school district financially?
I do. I do, because I think we cost a fair amount of money to run. We have really small classes, which I know part of that's because of our grant, but it is an expense to run the school. And with this few students, it's not really, if you do the cost per student and how much it costs to run the building, I think it will turn out that it's pretty expensive. So I do think it will help it financially. Although, I have to add that moving everybody and moving the kitchen equipment and all that, that's a big expense. So maybe down the line it will help, but not right away. It's going to be a very expensive thing.
How do you feel about Germantown closing?
Well, I think it's really sad for the juniors because, you know, they're getting prepared to go to college next year and they're going to be displaced. They're going to be split up from their class, and I think it's most sad for them. I feel like it's put a real sense of hopelessness in everyone, staff, students, and, you know, really brought morale down.
Okay. Will the school closing affect you?
Yes, of course. So I don't know where I'm going to be next year. Hopefully I'll have a job. Hopefully I won't get laid off. I don't have much seniority, and, you know, I'm going to have to, I was just thinking about today, I'm going to have to get prepared to start interviewing. Most likely I won't get right to follow because of my seniority, and so I need to start making myself marketable again.
Okay. Do you think the school closing will affect this community?
Yes, of course. I definitely think it will. I think this school has a lot of support from the community. A lot of people, like myself, I have people that live in this community that come in to help out in school and after school program, and someone else comes in to do another program with the 9th grade students, and so there's a lot of support around here for this school. And, you know, I think it's, you know, just as it's affecting the school with a sense of hopelessness, it's affecting the community as well.
Okay. Do you think the school closing will the school district benefit money off of it?
I mean, I understand their plan. Understand that these large buildings, these large older buildings, are being underutilized, and it costs a lot of money to keep them open. But ultimately, I mean, they have to think about the students, you know, and the privatization of the privatization of education now, with all these public schools closing and charter schools opening.
How do you feel about Germantown High School closing?
How do I feel about Germantown High School closing? Overall, I'm really disappointed. This was going to be the next year was going to be the 100th anniversary of the school. Could have been a really nice time to try and acknowledge its history. I feel especially bad for the junior class, who have been working in a school that's been improving over the last 3 years, and then they have to be uprooted and go somewhere else and have this and try and establish a new set of friends and a new set of relationships with teachers and neighborhoods and things like that. And there's been a lot of talk about alternatives, about what could have been done to save Germantown, and ideas about keeping Germantown and not having to make these kind of closures. And it's just very disappointing to see how everything's played out.
Alright. Does the school closing affect you?
School closing affects me because the programs, this CTE program that I teach in graphic design, as well as the other CTE programs in business and in culinary arts, they have been slated to directly move over to Martin Luther King High School. So I kind of have an idea that I know where I'm going, but it's one of those things that you're never sure until it happens, and you're never sure what you're going to find when you get there.
How do you feel that the school closing will affect the community?
Well, because they haven't really set up an alternative about what's going to happen with the building, I don't know. That's one thing that really concerns me about what's going to happen with this building. Is somebody going to buy it and turn it into something else? Is somebody going to come in and put a new school here, like another charter? Is it going to sit here and become an eyesore or a dangerous place? And then they talked about how they were originally going to close all 3 of the schools here in the area, the high school and the middle school and the elementary school. Now, they saved Roosevelt, but they were in danger of making what people were calling an educational desert in this area. And that does a disservice not just to the students and the parents and the families themselves, but also to the businesses and the community organizations that serve them. So I think it's going to be tough for the community. I'm not sure what's going to happen, because you never know. Something better might come up. But right now people don't feel good about what the results might be, at least for the short term.
Do you think the school closing will benefit the school district financially?
There have been studies and estimates and financial projections that people have put together that basically say that whatever money they're going to save is going to be minimal compared to the large amount of money that the school district needs. They're talking about saving, I don't know, like $20 or $30 million, I think, and yet the shortfall that the district is facing is like $600 million. I don't know what closing these schools is going to do. Plus, you also have to think that closing the schools actually costs money. It costs money to close these schools as well. Moving stuff from one location to another, consolidating programs or schools into one building and building on to whatever facilities still exist and improving those. So again, there were a lot of different proposals that were put out before Germantown was officially slated to close, and there were some good alternatives and there were some good ideas, and it doesn't sound like the right people to make those decisions actually listened to the alternatives. So we're faced with what we're faced with, and hopefully it's going to work out in the end.
I'm sitting here with Mr. Liu, geometry teacher at Germantown High School, and I wanted to ask a couple questions about the closing of Germantown. How do you feel about the closing of Germantown?
Well, I think it's a bad decision for the Germantown community. I also think it puts the students in a bad position, both the students who are graduating, because they're not going to be able to relate to other people and say in college or down the road when they ask what high school they went to. A lot of people won't know Germantown in 10, 20 years because it would have closed. And for the students who are in maybe 9th, 10th, or 11th grade, they don't even know what school they're going to next. So it puts the kids in a bad position. It puts the whole community, because the high school is the staple of the community, and if you take that away, it kind of diminishes the value around here. It can hurt the local businesses, it can hurt the properties, but overall it's just a bad thing for the community, and it's a fact that it is a Promise Academy and they didn't keep their promise. So it's kind of disheartening as a teacher at this school who believed in the Promise Academy model, who now doesn't believe in it because the district proved that they don't believe in it either.
Exactly how does the school closing affect the teachers?
Well, the teachers now have to look for new jobs. Usually, depending on the amount of closings, you might get laid off, and me, since I'm a young teacher, I might not be retained. However, they told us not to worry about that, so there will be a position for me at another school, but the window hasn't even opened up yet for me to even consider where to transfer or what other school I might want to consider. But for me, it's kind of annoying because I just spent my first year last year teaching here, and this is my second year. So typically, whatever school I go to, I would have to start my first year all over again. And you know, you build a camaraderie with the people at your school, you get to know the staff and the students, and it makes your teaching job a lot easier, it makes you better as a teacher. You start a new school, you're going to face a lot more challenges. So a lot of the teachers here are upset. They put their time and their heart into this job at this school, and now they might have to move. So it's pretty upsetting for all the teachers.
Well, the main issue for the school closing is financial reasons. Do you really solely believe that the school closings will benefit from closing the school, or financially?
Well, me personally, no, I don't think it's all a financial reason. This school has space to hold other students. It's a matter of the politics behind it, which also are based on financial reasons. So if you're looking at the actual finances of the cost of closing a school, moving the students and moving the supplies, the books, the computers, and all the resources from one school to the other schools, that's going to be a big cost up front. I don't know the exact number, but it's going to be in the millions. Also, you have to look at how much it would cost to refurbish or repair the school. So although the school is old, you could fix it up, ideally. You could make some improvements, but you have to look at that kind of cost, because closing the school is going to have an impact 5, 10, 15 years down the line. Making some refurbishes and making some improvements, that's not going to, it's an upfront cost. You don't have to pay for it every single year. But on the other hand, when the enrollment is going down, a district is less likely to invest in a school. So if you see the less number of kids, you're not likely to pour more money into a building.
Well, that's all. Thank you for letting me interview.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about Germantown closing?
I'm very upset about Germantown closing. I think it's a vital part of the community, and I think, personally, I think that they should not close Germantown. They asked Germantown to do many things. 4 years ago, they asked us to get our test scores up and get our school violence down and get off the endangered, predominantly violent school list. We did both of them, but now they turn around and close us. Why are they doing that to us? Is there some hidden agenda? Next question.
Does the school closing affect you?
Yes, certainly. I've been here for a long time, and I would like to finish out my career here at Germantown High School. I've made a lot of great relationships, not only with students, but with their parents and with the community, and I am very, very saddened to hear that the school district is going to take those relationships that I've spent over 30 years developing and just discard them.
Okay, do you think that the the school closing will affect the community?
Absolutely. Germantown High School is the mainstay of this community. Now, I don't know what the school district's plans are for this site, but one of the safest places in this community has always been Germantown High School. You can't control the neighborhood, but you can control what's happening in the school. And most students that I've talked to over the years said they felt safer in the school than they felt in the neighborhood. Next question.
Do you think that the school district will get money financially from Germantown High School?
I think by the, I don't know what, I'm not privy to what they're going, but they're going to sell this site for something. Now the cost of moving everyone over and the cost of selling the site, if it's not already sold, I think it's going to be prohibited. I don't think Germantown, there's more to it than what they're saying to us. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Jimenez, how do you feel about the closing of Germantown?
It's very upsetting. When I began teaching 4 years ago, Germantown's the only high school I've ever been at. And also on top of that, I chose Germantown purposely because I was living in the area and I planned to stay in the area until I retired from teaching. And me and my wife are in the process of buying a house right now in the area, and it's disheartening that I have to switch up locations now in the fourth quarter of my plans of life. I think the closing of Germantown is more of a reflection of the overall destruction of public education as a whole. Germantown is just a microcosm of a larger reality that is occurring all over our nation in almost every inner city, from Detroit to Atlanta to Louisiana, New Orleans. And the model that they're applying is a business model, and they want to look at education through the scope of businessman. So if the businessman doesn't produce results, he gets fired. Unfortunately, we're dealing with children's education here. So the measurements that they're using aren't necessarily correct in evaluating a person's or an individual's ability necessarily, just more of their ability to take a test. When I look at what's happening around the nation, from principals and superintendents getting charged with crimes for cheating on tests because their paychecks are tied to what student test scores are, and you look at the reality of how the Keystone exam in Pennsylvania will determine if a student will get a diploma for the incoming 9th grade class next year. It's just very disheartening.
Exactly how does the closing of the schools affect the teachers?
I think it affects teachers by making them feel unbalanced. One thing, especially teachers in Philadelphia have always dealt with, is kind of the lack of continuity. The lack of continuity of being stay in the same building, the ability to have the same students with such transient population of students in and out. It just contributes to an overall sense of not feeling stable. I know after the school has been announced, I feel unbalanced. My morale is low. And it's just an overall feeling of, what is it all worth? Now, I came into the school district with a realistic perspective, so I'm not really concerned what the ultimate place I end up will be. I know that I will always do my best work and I will care for what I do. But with a teacher retention rate of like less than 50% after 3 years, I don't know what the school district is trying to achieve with all these changes. The only thing I think that they're trying to do is destroy one of the biggest union in Philadelphia, which is the Philadelphia Federation Teacher Union. And I'm sure once they get rid of us, that every other union will fall also in the city. I think it's just a realignment of how we think education, how we think people should work and get paid for and compensated for. And, I realize that it's larger than just Germantown. It's just unfortunate that most people don't know that or even fail to recognize that. In our system, in America's system of capitalism, the number one priority has always been to maximize profits. And I know education, public education, is like one of the last major things to stop, be that barrier. I'm sorry. Look at me.
How do you feel the closing of Germantown will affect the community?
I think it will be dramatic on local businesses that benefit from a large school with students in it. I think unless this place is sold, I think it will affect the overall feeling of the community of having such a large empty building in the middle of it. I don't know what they're going to do with it, what they're going to replace it with, but they will need to do that unless they want blight on the community. But ultimately, I don't think people are meant to have community anymore. I think it's supposed to be a situation where we're all supposed to be out for ourselves and, screw everybody else. And I think that's more of a reflection of how even just education is going overall. A parent sends his child to a charter school, which might not produce better results, but on image, it looks better. And the parent says, well, it doesn't matter that kids around my way don't have a local public school to go to as long as my child is okay. And I think that continues this mentality of it's all about me, nobody else matters. And that individualism, I think, is destroying this community, destroying all communities that once were the very foundation of what we needed to get by. That's all I have to say about that. That's kind of depressing also.
Do you think that the school closings will actually help the school district financially?
I think that's the whole purpose. What I was saying earlier about the caring of maximizing profits, I think that is a connection to why they're closing down the school. If you look at all the schools that are closing, they all have a specific pattern, the same thing. All the schools that are closing, most of them, are hyperly segregated schools. Most of them, when I say hyperly segregated, I mean 99% black. I think that it will benefit the school district financially because they'll be able to sell this building for, probably $1 million, and then benefit further from packing more students into a small facility. Unfortunately, as they open up more charter schools and giving facilities away to private interests, I think the child's education would be the last thing. So one of my criticisms of people who were talking against closing the school was that they were trying to appeal to people's conscience, to appeal to their feelings, to appeal to their emotions. People who are all about money don't care about such things. And that's why I didn't blink an eye closing all these schools and closing the 50 schools that they're planning to close in Chicago. I think that financially it will, education-wise it will just get worse, and I think generally it will create a larger barrier for the students that we serve to be successful in our society. As we prepare for all these schools to close and they send kids all over the city, number one, we'll break up the community, what's left of it, and then it will also benefit charter schools and private schools and special and mid schools. But what about the students who don't have good grades? What about the students who don't have parents highly engaged? They will all be sent to the same places, and then will those test scores rise? I think that it goes back to the idea of making money. Yes, they will. They always will. But education, that's an afterthought.